Disclaimer: The Minority Report podcast by Mike V. Minor. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are mine and mine only and do not reflect those of any affiliated individuals, organizations, or employers. This content is for entertainment and informational purposes only, so listen with an open mind. And if you don't agree, that's cool too.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 2 of the podcast, man. Glad to have y'all here. Y'all already know, once again, my name is Mike V. Minor. I'm gonna get my energy up, man. But I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to have this going. I just want to shout out to everybody who's been interacting on with me on TikTok and on YouTube. I got a whole 10 goddamn subscribers. That was mixed emotions. Yeah, okay. I got a whole 10 subscribers on that mug. Yo, what is going? Oh, let me try it again. I got a whole 10 subscribers on that YouTube thing, y'all. Yeah. And I got a whole, I want to say 88, 89 followers on TikTok, so I'm famous. Y'all, I just want to say thank you guys for everybody that's following me. And I know these numbers seem low, and some people are going to be like, oh, my goodness, you're so happy about 80 followers on TikTok and, 10 subscribers on YouTube. Don't look at this as a, me bragging or whatever the case is. Look at this right here of what I'm saying as a timestamp. We're growing, and it's only been a month. I know some people grow fast or whatever the case is, but guess what? The commentary that I've had has been my way. I haven't had to conform to what other people are saying or other people are doing. I don't have to be argumentative all the time. I don't have to be mean and nasty or whatever the case is. I could just speak my point, speak my truth, and I'm speaking in the center. And trust me, I've gotten it from both sides. I have Democrats coming down, liberals, whatever the case is, saying you're an idiot. I have Republicans coming over and saying you're an idiot. And I'm like, well, both of you guys are saying that, then that means I'm actually doing something right. That means I'm being neutral. All right, that could also mean I'm an idiot. But I'd like to think that I'm being neutral. You guys tell me in the comments. You guys can tell me, you feel me, in my DMs or whatever the case is. But anyways, man, I feel the energy coming back. All right, so it sucks I lost. Well, I still have footage from this camera. I don't have footage from this camera, which is my key light, whatever you want to call it. But regardless, man, it's cool. It's going to be a great episode. All right. So anyways, I got to tell y'all, man, first off, shout out to TikTok. Shout out to my TikTok family and everything, everybody who's following me. Y'all know I'm trying to do my thing on there, but boy, oh boy, do you know I'm only a month old. I started my account on April 1st. April 1st. I got shadow banned within a week. And I'm like, what did I do? Yeah, I got shadow banned, but whatever. I got love the platform. I got love for the platform. Let's get into the mic check, right? Forget all the other stuff. Let's get into the mic check.
1 2 1 2 1 2.
We're in here, guys. We're in here. Anyways, let me say this, all right? And I got to be honest with y'all, right? It's something that I got to talk about right out the gate, right? And I'm not going to make a habit of doing this, okay? I'm not going to make it a habit of doing this, but I'm going to bring back up an issue. I had somebody comment to me. It was actually someone who knows me. And they said, hey, I ain't going to lie to you, man. You went pretty hard at the LGBTQ community. I'm like, what? I barely said anything about them. And if anything, I went after BLM. I didn't go after, LGBTQ. I just said, once again, let me be as clear as possible. It's not that I don't like you guys. It's not that I don't respect what you guys got going on. I don't like the message that the fringe people are putting out there. Since I'm already there, and since I'm already getting comments, I don't know, whatever, I'm going to go on and just jump off the deep end right now. Let's just set the record straight. This is how I truly feel about the gays. Let me say this as politely as I possibly can, okay? I have no problem with gay people. I have a problem with the messaging around gay people. I don't have a problem with you guys personally. I have the problem with the messaging around you guys, which is the same thing that I said about BLM. I understand what BLM was supposed to stand for, not the individuals who believe in it. I don't care that you're woke. I care that if you're woke and you're stupid. Like, are you supposed to be better that you wake up and you don't understand nothing? That's what I'm saying about woke people and about BLM. Okay? I'm saying something similar when we're talking about the LGBTQ plus community. I have no problem with you guys, all right? I am not anti-LGBTQ plus rights. I am against ideological enforcement, okay? Especially when we're talking about education. Maybe you guys felt like my tone was pretty rough, even though I spent all of like 30 seconds talking about it. And I didn't even say nothing crazy, but I am trying to discuss societal differences versus forced acceptance. I had this analogy, right? And I didn't say this last week, but I'm gonna say it now. I had this analogy, right? In the early 2000s, in the 2010s, whatever. And I believe it's still there, but I know that they've been doing a lot to kind of like shut it down. In Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, they have this area called the red light district. Where am I going with this? I know. They have the red light district, right? And the red light district, if you don't know, is basically an area where you pretty much walk down and then they just have all these buildings with these windows. And in the windows, it's not really red. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it's pink, but whatever. It's a light around it. And then it's, usually, well, you would hope a beautiful woman standing in the window and they're just kind of, in a lingerie. And then you just kind of go by and guys are just looking, And if you see something that you like, and, she's open, you can just she'll like, okay, come on. And then she'll open a door, you go up to them and you negotiate your rates and what services she will provide. And then she closes the window and they make it happen. And then when it's all said and done, she sends you on your way, you go on your way, you walk away, and it is what it is. No hard feelings, no loss, whatever. Maybe you guys are trying to figure out, like, how am I going to tie this all together? Like, I'm saying all to say that the folks who go in there, right, don't think about it from the perspective of the person who went in there. Think about it from the perspective of the people who saw that person enter that room, okay? The red light district is not like private rooms and you have to pay admission and it's not like a museum or nothing like that. It's literally a street. Just think of a street with a bunch of stores in front and, it's like that. So what I'm saying is that people are publicly walking in both directions on both sides of the street. People are driving by. People are on their mopeds and all this stuff. Like, the thing is really open all day, okay? And I'm saying all that to say that a person may enter this room, right? And you'll see them. You see them kind of looking at the person and kind of negotiating or talking to them. And you see them kind of go up in there. And when you see them go in, you automatically assume, oh, yeah, they're going to go do the do, okay? Let me give you another clue about the red light district. There are trans people there. You don't know what you're going to see or what you're going to get sometimes, but they're there, okay? You as a person outside, remember the perspective for you being a person that's not going in, but the person who sees somebody going in. Do you sit there and say, you know what? The world is going to end because Joe Blow went over there to get a Joe Blow. No, we don't do that. You sit there, you might look at them, you have your quick analogy of what's going on or whatever. Oh, they about to get it, ha, ha, ha. Or, oh, that's a chance, ha, ha, whatever. And you keep going on your way. That is how the world needs to treat the LGBTQ plus community. And that is how I wish the LGBTQ plus community would treat the world, okay? It doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. It matters, what are you doing? Is that what you want to do? Does the other person agree? Right? And let them live their life. Or if you're the person making the decision of doing it, live your life. It doesn't have to be nobody else's business. Even though we can see plainly, oh, you're doing something like if I know there's a trans person there, or even if not trans, even if you're on a heterosexual situation and you go to, I know, I don't sit here and think, oh, that man got a wife. I don't think that, I don't care. And especially if you're not a prominent person, if you're not a public figure, nobody is going to remember this. Live your life. Don't make it everybody else's business. Let me explain to you guys why this is like bugging me or why I'm even addressing this, okay? As I told you guys, I have kids. I need you guys to understand this. I don't believe that while they are in school, that they should be forced upon to learn an ideal they cannot or they're not of age to really be able to decipher properly, okay? Why does modern sex education include relationships, including LGBTQ plus ones? This is my question for y'all. Why are we talking about relationships in sex education? All right. They say because kids are learning about relationships with or without schools. So whether from social media, old peers, TV, or porn, kids are already absorbing messages about sex, gender, and relationships. Schools now aim to offer a counterbalance rooted in health and safety because emotional literacy affects physical safety, right? Consent, grooming, manipulation, shame, and trauma often start in a relationship context, not just sex, okay? This is why sex education introduces things like healthy boundaries, respect, emotional readiness, and non-coercion, especially for LGBTQ plus youth who are often isolated. Once again, these are the reasons why I was told by other people that modern sex education is including relationships and why it's being taught in school like that, okay? Number 3, okay, they say because saying sex education equals just biology ignores lived reality. All right, you're right, man. Classic sex was penis and vagina, all right? Because sex education equals biology ignores lived reality, all right? And you know what? You gotta understand, classic sex education was penis and vagina equals baby. Wear a condom or get a disease. That was sex education. And you spent a whole semester hearing these uncomfortable things and seeing these uncomfortable pictures to prevent you from wanting to have sex. It didn't work, but at least we knew something. You know what I mean? They weren't saying, hey, this is a type of woman you should want to have sex with, and this is the desired feel of a coochie. You know what I mean? They don't do that. That's not sex education. Sex education is just, it used to be, hey, penis, vagina, baby. Condom, no baby, no disease. No condom, possible baby, possible disease. It was that simple. So why we made it super complicated? Anyways. Here's the thing, all right? I'm not against LGBTQ plus education. I'm against the overreach. It's one thing to mention that gay relationships exist. We all understand that, right? It's another thing to embed ideology into curriculum, okay? And call it safety. We don't promote drugs to teach about drug abuse, right? You don't tell somebody, oh, this is what happens when you take cocaine and it feels so good. Oh my goodness. You don't do that. You say, if you take cocaine, this can happen. That's what sex education in my mind should be. Okay? Not, oh, it's okay to feel like you want to, So why does sex education feel like it's promoting exploration instead of preparing kids for delayed decisions? I don't send my kids to school to experiment socially, y'all. I send them there to learn. Learn these subjects, learn these skills. Do I understand that some of these things are going to happen naturally? Yes, but amongst other children. You guys got to understand this, all right? Parents, sometimes you guys try to control the environment so much, you don't have as much control over what your kid sees as you think you might, okay? So sometimes you just have to understand that life is going to happen regardless. On the other side, we need to stop feeding them so much information because kids are so impressionable when they're young. And as they're growing, they're learning these things, okay? relationships, gay, straight, or anything else, all right, it shouldn't be the focus in the classroom. At most, it should be a single assembly, maybe a couple assemblies here and there. It should not be an entire course about this is what this relationship means and this is the pros and the cons. No. It just needs to stop, okay? And honestly, can we stop pretending like all this hyper inclusion isn't confusing these kids, right? We used to have LGB. Then it was LGBT, okay, natural addition. You feel me? Whatever. I classified the T's with the B's, but I guess they need their own classification. Cool, whatever. LGBT. Then it was LGBTQ. Then it was LGBTQ plus. What in the hell? Look, I don't have a problem with the gay community. I don't have a problem with you guys, okay? We got to do better, okay? But you know, I had this statistic. I think it was like, I think the gay community is like 10% right now. 10% in, or like 9% in the U.S. And around the globe is like about 2%. And mind you, that's just that's a educated guess. Some people are still in the closet. Some people, are being persecuted. They don't say nothing. So, you don't really know what that is. Okay. And to be fair, that is a significant amount, right? So 1 out of every 1 out of every 10 people, or 1 out of every 9 people are gay or identify as LGBTQ plus. That, that's a lot more common than people want to give credit for. With that being said, I'm not saying that we should let you guys get beat on or nothing like that. I'm not saying that we should promote gay bashing or that we should take the understanding portion. I'm saying all relationships should stay away from schools. And parents, you need to do a better job at preparing your kids for life. Expose them to more things. Maybe this is not popular. Tell me. I mean, apparently, this is one of those subjects I know it's going to live on, and I'm going to have to figure this out. Okay? And I'm not saying I am above reproach. I'm above change. All I'm saying is that I think that it's an ideology that's being pushed for these kids, and we don't push heterosexual ideology. So why do we have to push, LGBTQ plus? Okay, that's my whole thing. All right, I understand this too. Kids grow up in straight environments and go gay all the time. Okay, I get that. I'm not stupid. What's meant to protect kids might actually be overexposing them, all right? And in our effort to prevent bullying, I wonder if we've created a whole new kind of pressure. I'm going to get off of that right now, and we're just going to kind of like keep pushing. But, I got to talk about this. I hope I push the right one. We're going to go, and mind you, I had a certain order, and I'm not always going to go in the same order, and I'm not always going to do all the segments. By the way, of course, or not of course, I am not going to talk about any sports. I'm not going to talk about sports today. And the reason why I'm not going to talk about sports today is because right now, at this time stamp, the Lakers are in the playoffs. We're in the first round against the Timberwolves. I didn't say this on the last episode, but let me just hurry up and get out of this. You feel me? I did not want to play. If there was one team in the West I was afraid of, it was the Timberwolves. And I seem to have been right to have been afraid. Hopefully, we still win this series, but, it is what it is. And Raiders, we had a draft. We could talk about Shador Sanders and everything. I already know about that, but I'm going to wait, all right? I'm going to just wait on that. Not because I don't care, but because it's not really much to say. We had a good draft, okay? So, with that being said, I mean, if you want to call it a segment, that was, and we walk. We're going to talk about minor issues.
That bothered me.
Let's continue on. Other people I apparently need to address. Okay. Internet trolls. All right. Let's talk about it. Let's talk. Internet trolls and debate culture. The internet gave people a microphone or megaphone or bully pulpit, whatever you want to say, but it didn't give them the reason to use it responsibly. Okay. People say wild stuff online that they'll never say in person. There's stuff that people will say, like, they'd be like, oh, yeah, shut up. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Like, you would, like, you know what I mean? And they're saying it a lot more disrespectful than that. I promise you, that would never happen in person. I would slap the living dog. If you told me to shut up because I was trying to finish my thought. Anyways. There's no cause to disrespect, man. So trolls win by default. And I've realized this, man. It pisses me off so much about, online and stuff, because TikTok lives and stuff, I've realized that them just going in here and doing whatever the heck they're doing, the more confrontational they are, it seems to get them more likes and more views or whatever the case is. And to me, that's just corny. It's like, if that's not how you are in real life, why are you being like that on the internet? And I understand that the internet kind of gives you the space to become these characters, but it just pisses me off, because it's like, yo, you're talking real spicy. Like, people, like, you be on a panel and then the host would be like, oh, you know what, I ain't got time. You be mid-conversation, they'll just cut you off. And you be like, dang, I just got hung up on online in front of everybody. Right? But then you also realize it's really not that big of a deal. Some people go out there and they crash out. It's crazy, because I swear I've been in about like 10 lives, right? And out of all those 10 lives, about 8 of those 10 lives had somebody come on there with the screen name Crash Out. And 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 times, or I guess it would be 7 out of 8 times, you know what I mean? Every time a Crash Out came on, they crashed out. It's like, to the host or the moderator that brought them up there, did you not think they were going to crash out? To the people who are crashing out, is that why you're on there? Is just to crash out? It doesn't matter if you're in a left or right leaning chat or conversation. It doesn't matter if it's left or if it's right. They basically are the same, right? If it's left, they're pretty much saying, hey, you guys are racist. White people are racist. And, Trump is the devil, and, blah, blah, blah. He shouldn't be our president. And, my favorite one is, Kamala was overqualified. And if you didn't vote for Kamala, you voted for Trump. I tell them, hey, guys, I actually voted for Chase Oliver. They're like, who's Chase Oliver? Oh, that's part of the thing. It's crazy. You guys don't know who Chase Oliver is. I get it. He's not that popular, but he was running for president. If you actually looked at the names of the people who were running, you would know he's actually on that ballot as a candidate for presidency. And for the people who know, they're like, oh, and why didn't you vote for Kamala? This is the left, all right? Why didn't you vote for Kamala? I gave one reason, and they jumped down your throat. Oh my God, that's so stupid. Damn, can I finish? And I'm sorry, I thought it was my vote. It's one thing to sit there and tell me that you think I made the wrong choice. It's another thing to turn around and tell me that my choice was basically another choice. Oh, because you didn't vote for Kamala, that means you're racist. That means you don't like black women, you're misogynist, and you also voted for Trump. No, I voted for Chase Oliver in the state of California, specifically in a Southern California district that Kamala won overwhelmingly. I voted for Chase Oliver. He lost. You don't see me going up and saying, oh, well, he was overqualified and blah. I'm just, okay, he lost. Who cares? I voted. That's what matters. And if you go to the right, oh my goodness. Why didn't you vote? They sure don't know who Chase Oliver. They barely know how to say Kamala's name. MAGAs. that sounds like I'm saying maggots, but I'm saying MAGA. MAGA people, y'all worship Trump no matter what. It's too many of y'all that are like, Trump is the end-all be-all king and whatever. And they come in there, especially when they're crashing out. They're like, hey, Trump's your daddy, get over it. Like, dang, like, can we have a conversation? Like, maybe, whatever, okay? Reality TV made us all feel like it's okay to crash out. Social media is the only place you can lose an argument and change your profile pic and come back and say, I'm undefeated. That's the truth. They'll say some stuff like, go back to where you came from, right? That comment pisses me off for this reason, okay? Number one, I am where I came from. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I still live in Southern California, partially LA. I'm still here. So don't tell me go back to where you came from, okay? What you're really saying is go back to where my ancestors came from. Oh, well, they came from the slave trade. Maybe you're talking about their ancestors. Oh, well, you know what? Guess what? Maybe they came from Africa. Maybe you're right. Okay, guess what? I've been there. You're European descent or you're Asian descent or wherever you're from. Have you been back to your original place? Because somehow you guys forget that, yeah, the slaves were brought over here, but so were you guys. We were forced over here. Well, black people, majority of the black people were forced over here. Majority of white people came over here willingly. But guess what? We're all from different places. So if I tell you to go back to where you came from, how you going to feel? Oh, it's because I'm complaining in the land that made it right and okay to complain. You don't get to tell me where I fit in because I don't agree with you guys. You got to get this in your head, all right? If more Americans actually left the country, they'd understand how privilege works, right? They will understand how propaganda works. They will understand it on both sides of the aisle and on both sides of the ocean. Don't tell me to go back. I'm from here. I just think different. Trolls win because we let them, all right? Because we stopped valuing dialogue, because we turned disagreement into identity, and because we got used to comfort. So we attack anything that challenges it. We got to stop this, guys. You want honest convo? You got to stop muting the middle, y'all. That's where the real growth lives and where the next fight is headed. All right, here we go, man. Let's get out of there, man. I want to talk about another thing that, I love to talk about. I love. And that is family matters.
We are family.
Parenting ain't public policy. If the government's doing the parenting, it's because the parents stopped showing up. But even when we do show up, we got to remember, our kids aren't growing up in our world. The racism that they'll face, the choices that they'll make, the fights they'll have, it's a different battlefield. Racism for my grandma and my grandpa on both sides of my family is not the same racism that my parents dealt with, which is not the same racism that I dealt with, and is not the same racism that my children are going to deal with or their children. We have to update our understandings of racism, and we have to acknowledge growth. I can't say this enough. We got to acknowledge growth. If we don't acknowledge growth, it's never going to, we're always going to be stuck. That doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do things to get us ahead. It just means let's also honor the growth, okay? This is important. Not just for us as adults or people, like-minded people, but because the way that we frame racism is going to frame how our children treat people. We keep raising kids like they're going to experience racism the same way that we did, or our parents did, or our grandparents did. We keep acting like progress has not happened. I get it. Some people are going to say, yeah, they're just not outside with it. They're not walking around with hoods and tiki torches. I get that. You guys want to get rid of a feeling. You want people to not be able to feel. If they stereotype, whatever the case is, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's what life does. We keep giving our kids our trauma. We're not giving them our tools, nor are we giving them their tools. I need you guys to understand this, right? The world don't burn crosses like it used to. Now it just makes you shadow banned, jobless, and invisible. So let's talk about accountability and parental responsibility, all right? The system isn't supposed to raise your kid. That's you. But if you don't show up, they will. Let that sink in. Okay? You have to understand that government, apps, culture, teachers, something will fill the parenting gap if you leave it open. Parents complain about schools doing too much, but they're doing too little themselves. You have too much power, parents, to help shape your child's future. When they put these policies or these teachings and stuff in school, don't complain about it on TikTok, even though you can. That's part of it. But go to the school board meetings. Go to the school. Ask for a meeting with the principal. Ask for a meeting with the superintendent. They have to listen to you. Even if they try to delay you and whatever the case is, if you are persistent and you hold their feet to the fire, your voice can be heard. That doesn't mean go up there, crash out, and try to beat somebody up or nothing like that. It just means make sure you have a constructive conversation and let them know you are here and you are concerned about your child's well-being and about their upbringing, and that you want them to stay out of the way when it comes to teaching them simple skills about life. If we want our kids safe, grounded, and thoughtful, we need community, okay? And community ain't perfect. Sometimes it looks like a Karen. But maybe that's not always a bad thing. If parenting starts at home, community keeps it going outside. And maybe that means we've got to rethink what a Karen really is. And not every act of criticism is oppression. Not every white person who disagrees with you is a white supremacist. And not every policy you don't like is racist. Racism is real, but so is nuance. Let's teach both. So, yeah, that was that, right? So now let's get into the subject I usually just try to start off with, but you know what? I have to push it back for this. And that is, let's get into the headlines, y'all. All right. I'm just going to bring it up, right? I was going to talk about the Diddy case. Then I was going to talk about the Drake versus UMG suit and the update on that. Then I was going to talk about Kendrick. And I want to talk about this, all right? Hot off the press. Tariffs and economic nationalism. Now, I'm going to say this to all you people who I've been on these lives with, and you guys have knocked me off because y'all didn't want me to talk or y'all didn't like or whatever. Guess what? You can't knock me off of this. And I'm going to tell you the same like you told me. If you don't like it, get out of here. Okay? I want to talk about both parties, all right? And I want to talk about these tariffs. First, and let me say this. To everybody who does not like Donald Trump, let me say this as someone who does not like Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. If you are a citizen of the United States, that means he's your president, whether you voted for him or not. It doesn't matter who you voted for. Whoever won is the president, just like whoever won in the Senate or in the House of Representatives is your senator or your representative. It doesn't matter. You cannot turn around and say that's not my president. And we need to stop disrespecting the president. That doesn't mean we shouldn't critique him. That doesn't mean we shouldn't hold him accountable for what he says and what he does. It just means just understand he's the president. And stop praying for his downfall. Stop praying on it. We should want our president to succeed. And right now, it feels like a lot of people leaning to the left or people who hate Donald Trump are like, they're like, he's going to mess it up. And they want him to mess it up so that they can be right. And it's like, you'd rather be right than us be better. Okay? Had to say that. Okay? Here's my gut take on tariffs, all right? It's a blunt tool. It's not a long-term strategy. It's a blunt tool. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but I'm not 100% against it because I haven't seen how this pans out. The truth of the matter is he did do this, right? And when he did this, he did start the tariffs and put the tariffs on. And when he put the tariffs on, guess what? People came and they're like, oh, how can we work this out? People did come up there and they wanted to work it out. Now, I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I don't know what that does for us in the long term. But to his credit, he got people to the table. Okay? They're a blunt tool, not a long-term strategy. They're used by politicians to signal strength while avoiding real reform. Tariffs sound like protection, but usually they only protect corporations, not people. The reality is higher tariffs, or when they put tariffs on something, that means higher prices at the checkout. Okay, so you're saying you're trying to protect jobs, but really you're taxing everybody else. It especially hurts lower income Americans who rely on cheaper imports. We slapped tariffs on China, but it felt like we slapped taxes on Walmart customers. That's the truth. Okay, understand this. You cannot sit here and say that, you know what I just put together right now? Remember when Donald Trump came in here and said, we're going to build the wall. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall. Remember when he said that, right? And he's like, and Mexico is going to pay for it. Then he came over here and did the same thing with tariffs. Hey, we're going to tariff everybody. And The other countries are going to pay us and we're going to become real rich, and it's going to bring jobs back. As if that's exactly what happens. And that's, that may be the intention, but the reality is, no, both times we paid for it. We, Americans, taxpayers, we paid for it. If you think that the people who Nike buys shoes from is not going to tax Nike more money for the tariff, then you're dumb. If you think that Nike is going to just eat away that loss in profit, then you're even more dumb. They're going to pass it along. Whether they pass it 100% or they pass it partially, it's higher for us, the consumer. It doesn't cost Nike that much money to get a shoe, okay? I need you to also understand this, all right? This is how tariffs work. Let's say Nike, and I'm going to keep the numbers low so people can understand this. Let's say Nike was selling Air Force One for $100, right? It's really $110, but they're selling for $100, right? Nike is probably getting that shoe from paying the person who's making the shoe, the materials that the person has to use, whatever, and the shipping, and and all that other stuff. They're probably paying like about $30 per shoe or per pair of shoes. Okay, so they get it for they buy it for $30, they sell it to you for $100, and that's a $70 profit. If I stick a tariff on that shoe, I'm not sticking 100% on $100. I'm sticking 100% on the $30 that they spent to purchase the shoe. Okay, so now $30 becomes $60. Okay, which means they were getting 70, now they're getting 40, right? But Nike is not going to say, oh, well, we're still making a profit. They're going to say, okay, well, we got to raise it. So maybe they raise it up to 110. Maybe they raise it up to 120. One way or another, they're going to raise the price because they want to try to stay within the same profit margins. They're not in business to lose money. They're in business to make money. If there's a way for them to make money, that's what they're going to do. And let me also say this. How many of you guys actually believe that if Nike is selling a shoe for $120 that used to cost $100, but they rose it up to $120 because of tariffs? How many of you guys believe that if that shoe is selling well and the tariffs come off, that Nike's going to be like, oh yeah, let's go back to our original price? No, they might say, hey, tariffs are gone. We went down to 110, but you're still up 10%. That's how tariffs work. That's why I don't agree with them. Okay? The real job killer that we need to talk about is not people sending jobs overseas, because the reality is, even staying on the subject about talking about these shoes, understand this. If that shoe were made in America, it would not cost $30 to pay for somebody to sew that shoe. It would not cost for $30 just to get the materials or nothing like that. It would cost more. And like I said before, they want to maintain their profit margin. The only way that the tariffs truly work and bring jobs back is if the tariff makes it more expensive for them to do business where they're doing. If it makes it more expensive to do it than it is to, if they're losing money, as what I'm trying to get you to understand is, if they're losing money, they'll rethink their strategy. Usually, rethinking their strategy means raise the prices. You will have to raise it to a very high level to make them want to give up that labor. Okay? The reality is those people over there are making so much less than what we're making over here. And honestly, let's be completely for real. How many Americans really want to sit there in a freaking in a hot workshop and screw in little screws like this? How many of y'all, raise your hand, right? I want to know who wants that job. Tell me how many of y'all want to sit there and sew shoes for minimum wage. I'll wait. How many of you guys really believe that if Nike has to start making their shoes in America, that they're going to keep using humans to do it? The real job killer isn't China. It's code. Okay? Politicians don't want to say robots are replacing you, so they blame other countries. Okay? Instead of preparing the American workforce for the future, they give tax cuts to corporations and call it patriotism. Let's talk about it, y'all. Like, let's be for real. Another thing I want to say about these tariffs that you guys have to freaking understand. Oh, it drives me so crazy when we talk about this. Do you guys understand that a corporation's main focus is to make money? They're not a nonprofit corporation. They want to make money. And capitalism is about freedom to make money how you want to make money. You got to understand that. So if you really want to change the system, guess what you got to do? You got to change what you do. There's no way to stop capitalism from doing what it's doing unless you take away the free market. So you got to choose a side. You either want a free market or you don't want a free market. The more regulation that we put on there, the less free it is. The more freedom we give, the more people are going to do what they want to do. If a corporation's main focus is to make money and they know that they can ship a job overseas or to another country and get the labor for much cheaper, and then when it's all said and done, their profits shoot up, just taxing them more money isn't going to stop them. Especially when you're an administration that technically is only going to be around for 4 years. It's not a law. You want to fix jobs? Then start funding trade schools and fiber internet in rural towns, all right? Don't slap a Band-Aid on a robot, okay? Let's talk about Trump versus Biden. Who did it better, all right? They both used tariffs to sound tough, but neither addressed why we were losing economic power. Now, to be fair, Biden did invest in domestic production. He did invest in it. That was part of the whole infrastructure bill that they passed. MAGA. You remember how Trump said he was going to, pass a big, beautiful infrastructure bill? Anyways, there's no tax penalties for outsourcing, guys. You want to fix that? Change that, okay? There's no long-term energy or tech strategy of how we're going to beat it. That's the reason why, we've been losing in this. China had a strategy, and they have stuck to that strategy no matter what people said. They have stuck to that strategy. And in many ways, they have positioned themselves to be in a successful position. Also, let's also remember, they have made missteps. The one child rule is affecting them right now. It's affecting them heavily right now. But on other initiatives, they're winning. Straight up. Okay? Tariffs are the political equivalent of tough talk in a group chat. All bark, no build, okay? The fear of upsetting corporate donors stops us from actually fixing anything, all right? Tariffs are performative, like NYC toll rollbacks, like tip culture, like luxury tax dodges, okay? When corporations run a conversation, tariffs become PR, not policy. Yeah. Had to get to that, all right? And let's just get on to this next subject, man. I'm cooking right now. Here we go.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Louder.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Thank you. Yeah, I was weak. Sing for me. Anyways, we keep saying we're broke, but we've got billion-dollar businesses on life support and workers on GoFundMe, y'all. Stop coddling these corporations. This segment is going to expose how the government's fear of hurting business is actually hurting everybody else. And automation is about to make that fear worse unless we deal with it head on. I'm tired of the government protecting business at all costs, right? Businesses are not children. If they can't survive without tax breaks, subsidies, and loopholes, they're not competitive. I'm going to say this again. If businesses cannot survive without tax breaks, subsidies, and loopholes, they're not competitive. Meanwhile, workers are being told to upskill or get left behind. You subsidize billionaires, then shame the poor for needing housing assistance. Come on, what are we doing? We're funding corporate survival like it's FEMA, but when it comes to the people, it's tighten your belt. Like, come on, man. Let me give y'all an example, right? NYC passed this whole thing. Long story short, they basically were raising the tolls of people coming into Manhattan. Okay, and the reason why they did that was to address, the severe traffic that they experienced in, New York. So when it went into effect, I read this whole report where basically they said it went into effect, and actually, everybody was afraid that, it was going to, be just more cost for everybody else. But what actually ended up happening was a lot of people were dissuaded from driving in Manhattan, and the traffic was a lot better. And then good old Big Daddy Trump came up there and said, hey, get rid of that, and blah, 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 blah. Mind you, the government had signed off on it originally, and then he came over and took that back so he can try to win some votes in New York that he's never going to win. And you're on your last term technically anyway, so why are you trying to win those? But whatever, he tried to do that. And guess what? Traffic went right back to where it was, all right? Suddenly, politicians backtrack because it sounded anti-working class. But the streets were finally clearing because it worked. It worked. This is why good policy dies, guys. It's because it hurts feelings, not just numbers. I'm telling y'all this because y'all need to understand how these corporations, or not just in corporations, but how politicians and these corporations are like in the same bed with each other. And they're the reason why the country is crumbling. I started this new thing, right? And this new thing is like, I said, I am slowly but surely going to stop tipping in America. Sounds harsh. And the reason why is because tipping puts the burden of fair wages on customers and not employees. And that's trash. That's trash. I'm already paying for a service. I'm going to give you guys this story I had. I was in Australia. And I remember I went out to this restaurant. And the restaurant, we went there to eat. And boy, the food was great. And the service was immaculate. It was great food, great service, great vibes, great setting and everything. And I said, yo, hey, I'm looking at this bill. And the bill, it wasn't even that much. I'm like, oh, man, I got to leave you a tip. He's like, no, it's not necessary. I said, no, you got to understand. I have to leave you a tip, man. You treat us so well. I need to leave a tip. And he said, look, I'm going to forgive you because you're American, right? So I felt like you was, that's like the overseas way of calling me an N-word. You know what I mean? So guess what? We all, anyways. He was like, I know you're American, so let me explain this to you, okay? Here, I've been working here for almost 20 years. I make a good wage. I own a home. I put 2 kids through college. I have a retirement. I take care of my family. Everything is fine. I don't need your money. I'm just doing my job. And since then, I have been on this tirade of I am no longer paying tips. Now, mind you, that was like 3 years ago. So I'm slowly but surely like enforcing this, but I'm not tipping. And a lot of people are like, well, you're hurting the worker. No, I'm actually trying to help you, because if we all were to band together and stop paying tips, guess what will happen? People will stop working in those jobs. What will happen then? Well, the business will have to figure out a way to pay their people. Because their whole thing is, if you're going and you're not making enough money because you're not getting enough in tips, then you're going to turn around and say, it's time I get a job that can actually stabilize my life. That's a win for you if you're the one receiving or living off of tips. And it's a win in the long run, because then these organizations will be forced to address an issue that, hey, guess what? If we don't tip, they don't have workers. Maybe, just maybe, you need to change your whole entire business model. I'd rather pay more for my food and not be expected to tip than to pay less for my food and be expected to tip or coerced to tip. It's like taking a sad kid from, I don't want to make it as racist, but it's like when I used to put those, remember those commercials and stuff like that? Hey, these people are in Africa. And they just sit, they looking skinny as hell. Let me tell you something. I've been to Africa. Like, it ain't that bad. It is not that. It's bad in certain places. But trust me, they ain't all sitting there looking at the camera like, they are not doing that. That's not to say that it's not places where they're doing it. I'm just saying the camera makes things a little bit more dramatic than really what it is, okay? Go to Africa. Go see it for yourself. I promise you, it ain't what these commercials make it all look like. There are places like this, but it's not as bad as you guys think. In fact, it's crazy because there are people over there that say, yeah, we get pictures about donations for things that's going on over there in Skid Row. I'm like, what? We sending y'all money. They're like, yeah, we send y'all money. Anyways, they don't talk about that. Look, you want dignity, then pay people. Don't shame customers into funding your payroll. That's what I got to say about tipping, all right? It's a loophole pretending to be culture. Okay? And last thing I'm going to say about this is, in America, a billionaire can underpay his staff, and we call it entrepreneurship. But if a waitress wants $20 an hour, she's lazy. That's America. That's how stupid this system is. You talking about taking away the tax on tips? No. Take away the need for tips. That's how you really address the issue. Maybe we should do something like a luxury tax, right? You want to raise revenue? Don't touch groceries. Touch Gucci. Tax luxury. You want a first class ticket? Tax. You want to fly private? Double tax. You want a suite? Tax. You want a Lexus? Tax. You're buying a luxury item. You're already spending more money. I get it. But that money's going to who? Okay, time for the government to get a piece. Because guess what? The majority of the people who can truly afford these luxury items, they're probably finding ways to avoid taxes. Guess what? Here's another thing I need you guys to understand. A basketball player could be, making hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Do you understand that they're still getting a paycheck? And when they get that paycheck, taxes are taken out of it automatically. You can have an entrepreneur making money and taxes are not automatically taken out. And they're going to write off a whole bunch of stuff. There are levels to this, okay? You got to understand. When it comes to writing off stuff, boy, oh boy, you need to understand how this stuff works. We'll get into it later. The real job killer is automation, y'all. AI is replacing writers. Robots replace warehouse pickers. Autonomous trucks are on the way. It's not China, guys. Like I said before, it's the code. Yet no one's talking about taxing the machines or even slowing them down. You tax me when I make money, but when a robot takes my job, you give the company a tax break for innovation. Think about that, all right? That's not capitalism. That's betrayal. Let's actually do something about it, guys. Trump doubled the deficit. Let me also say this, all right? We're still talking.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
I'm still here, okay? Trump doubled the deficit. He passed huge corporate tax cuts and sold it as patriotism, all right? And then the vid added pressure, but the framework was broken before the virus, okay? Trickle-down economics has never worked. It just trickled up, okay? And Biden's not off the hook either, but don't act like Trump is a savior of fiscal responsibility. He's not. Doge ain't did nothing. Guess what? This is a quote somebody told me, and I laugh, but it's a real reality. Y'all talking about taking away USA. We don't need to be sending that. Y'all don't realize we was paying rent and restitution to a whole bunch of these countries by that. Now, you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. I'll save it for later, all right? If you think Trump saved the economy, you weren't paying attention. And if you think Biden fixed it, you're still not paying attention. I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm tired. Anyways, corporate interest dominates every policy conversation. Tax structure, wages, public transit tolls. It all comes back to protecting profit over people. The same people warning you about government overreach are quietly lobbying to keep their automation untaxed and unregulated. So let me explain this to you guys. When the government stops listening to the people, sometimes the people have to become the watchdogs. All right, so let's transition, y'all. Let's get into my next subject. And this one, I'm gonna start heating up. If I ain't already cooked right now, trust me, we about to get into it. All right. Oh boy, let's do it. Let's talk about the village.
Welcome to our village.
All right, y'all. We keep talking about systems, but sometimes the problem ain't the system, it's the silence. And let's talk about the neighborhood and who gets labeled the villain when they're really trying to help. Y'all, believe it or not, this black man is coming in defense for Karens. Karens, step aside. Stand behind me as I blaze a path for you guys of understanding. We have been talking about Karens all the wrong way. Don't get me wrong. As I look back at the people who are behind me right now, and I'm trying to blaze a path, there are some Karens that don't be Karen. Straight up. There's some Karens that do things the wrong way. And Karens aren't always women. They're not always white, okay? There's some Karens that are just wrong. But with that being said, the majority of these people actually have their heart in the right place. And we need to stop demonizing them and start actually helping them understand it and shift things, okay? Not every Karen is a racist, guys. Some are just community members who give a damn. The real issue is when accountability turns into control, but zero accountability isn't freedom either. Local vigilance is how neighborhoods avoid becoming crime scenes or dumping grounds. Okay, let me explain this. Okay, this is a Karen situation, but it wasn't a Karen. It was I guess a kin or whatever we're gonna call him. Right? He was wrong, and man, Zimmerman. He should be in jail. Okay? Let me say that to frame this. You guys need to start rethinking privacy and community boundaries. Okay. Everyone's yelling, mind your business, until their business gets vandalized. You can't want peace without neighbors willing to protect it. You got to understand, the police are not always going to come and save you. That is why having a neighborhood of people who are like-minded, well, not even like-minded, but a neighborhood of people who care about the neighborhood is so powerful. Because guess what? That Karen, that person who is looking across the street, they're looking and they see somebody that's scouting out your house. Hey, this car, I don't know that car for anybody. They come every single day. They park right there. There's two gentlemen. They have hoods on, and I don't know, who they are, but they're standing there, and they come every day about 12 o'clock, and they just look and stare at the house, and I don't know, they're watching somebody, whatever. I don't know what's going on, And they go and tell everybody in the community, and everybody like, okay, well, some people are like, man, leave me the hell alone, man, stop talking, you so nosy. But the reality is, the person whose house being, watched, they might like to hear that. They're like, oh, what the heck is going on? Maybe they put a camera up there. Now they got a camera. Now they see what's going on. Maybe that Karen comes out, hey, can I ask, who you guys are and where you're from? Hey, leave me alone, lady. Oh, well, you're standing in front of my house. So I just would like to know. Hey, get the hell on, lady. That's what they're going to say. Okay, well, I'm going to call the police. Oh, no. That's what a Karen is supposed to do. They be caring about their community. That's not to say that they don't stereotype. That's not to say that they're not, some of them aren't racist or whatever, or stereotypical, however, or prejudice, or whatever you want to call it. Yes, that is a fact. But the reality is, guess what? They serve a lot of good if done the right way. We need to redirect their attention, all right? We need to realize the difference between inherited and current trauma, okay? Some people's anger is inherited, but if it stays unprocessed, it becomes a child's anger too. You can't expect your kid to heal from a war you never stop fighting, okay? So real community support does not equal overpriced handouts, okay? We say support black business, but we treat it like a GoFundMe. It's not a standard. Stop selling $10 shirts for $50 just because it's black owned. That's not support. That's inflation with the hashtag. Support community means invest in the community, not just buy transactions. I'm saying all this to understand this is what the Karen does, because they don't just talk about random people walking through the neighborhood that shouldn't be there, or people at the park vandalizing the park or loitering or whatever the case. They're not just talking about that. They're also talking about, oh man, prices are going up and this and that. They're talking about all these different things. Okay, that old white lady that might be over there might not like you because you come outside, you're smoking weed, and all your friends come out smoking weed and dropping trash all over the place. You take up all the parking spaces. They have a right to not like that. They have a right to not like that. You're at the park and you're sitting at a bench and you're smoking a cigarette. Oh, well, kids are playing around here and we don't want them to be around smoke. They have a right. That's what a Karen can do. We always talk about, because of the stereotypical Karens, whatever, but we don't think about all the good that Karens do. I'm not saying that they don't need to be retaught some things and that some things don't need to be addressed. I'm saying that sometimes, just sometimes, and more times often than not, their heart is in the right place. Maybe they need some education, but we cannot demonize them. Our communities are falling apart because we are falling apart from each other. Let me tell you something, all right? I got a homie, okay? My boy, I'm not going to say his name, but he knows who he is when I say this, and people who know me know who he is too, all right? My boy was on a 6-year slow grind, right? He wasn't getting no handouts, all right? No handouts. He did his time, okay? The last time he went into prison, me and him would talk all the time. He'll call me on the phone. I'll be overseas, and I'm like, yo, bro, you don't understand, man. I'm over here. It's crazy over here, this, that. And so I started doing this thing, and I would go to, and I do this with a lot of my homies, but this one in particular is a success story, so I'm using them, all right? I would go to the gift shop in some of the places I was if I had time, and I would go buy a postcard, and then I would, go to the hotel, whatever, and say, can you guys mail this to here? And they all looked at me crazy because I was, sending it to a state prison. They're like, what the hell? Yeah, send it to him. It's cool. I'll probably send him some pictures or something like that. He'll be like, yeah, I got your letter, bro. And I'm, hey, I'm over here, man. I'm bragging. You didn't send me something from Berlin, bro. I'm over here. How many of y'all got the homie sending you something from Berlin? He's, you done bought me some books, bro. I got the books. Towards the end, when he was about to get out, I said, look, when you get out this time, you can't go back in, bro. I got you. I'm going to do what I can for you. But you can't go back in. All right. He went from prison to payroll. Okay. That's what it looks like when a village steps up. Even though he didn't vote, guess who he supports? Newsflash. Trump. And he's still my guy. That's community. The system isn't supposed to raise your kids. That's your job. But if you don't, they will. Don't touch groceries. Touch Gucci. That's luxury. But try to build wealth, and they treat you like a felon. We praise the quick come up, but not the long climb. No love for the slow build surgeon, only the rapper who signs overnight. We gotta change how we do this. I'm saying we need to respect our Karens because they're trying to keep our community safe. We need to keep building our communities up because if we build our communities up and we support our communities, not just the black community or the white community or the Mexican, not just that, but our communities that we live in, guys, it's so much. I hope y'all like that. We're going to talk about something, and this is going to get deep, all right? It's going to get deep. I am going to continue a bit about my conversation on the whole Gaza thing. That was actually something seemed to be very polarizing, whatever, and I just want to expand on it a little bit more, okay? The price of intervention, how U.S. foreign policy always comes back home. Y'all, this is Global Frequency. We keep asking, why are all these people trying to come to America? But rarely do we ask, what do we do to their countries before they got here? The immigration crisis that was at the border that is now since eradicated. You know, U.S. political leaders across both parties will talk about the flood of migrants from places like Venezuela, Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. But this isn't a natural disaster, y'all. It's the aftershock of decades of terrible and failed U.S. foreign policy. Sometimes you need to go ask. In fact, let me take this overseas. I'm not going to tell you exactly what happened because I want you guys to research. Go see how U.S. interventionism what it did to Ghana. Look at the first president of Ghana, right? And look at what the U.S. did to Ghana. Look at what he stood for and what he was trying to do in Africa. And look at what the U.S. did to them. All right, let me get back over here to the immigrants, okay? It is years, decades of failed U.S. foreign policy, okay? We destabilized Latin America. This isn't ancient history, guys. This is Cold War playbook, still running. Guatemala, 1954, guys. CIA overthrew a democratically elected leader, Jacobo Arbenz, all right, for nationalizing land, all right? The U.S. installed a military regime. It sparked decades of civil war and massacres. Ain't that one of the people we talk about? Why are all these Guatemalans here? El Salvador and Nicaragua in the 1980s. All right, the U.S. funded death squads and right-wing paramilitaries to stop communism. And we created a culture of violence, corruption, and mass trauma. They're running from there. Where are they trying to come? Okay, Colombia. We backed Plan Colombia, which militarized anti-drug efforts, but also fueled displacement, militarism, and paramilitary violence. Venezuelans, you remember those? Economic sanctions, coup attempts, and years of intervention exasperated instability. Now people are fleeing hyperinflation and collapse, some of which we, and by some, a big sum of which we helped fuel. Then we built walls to block the fallout. These migrants aren't just fleeing poverty, they're fleeing conditions we helped create. And then we're turning around and say, we need border walls, we need family separations, we need deportations without accountability. We interfere, we destabilize, and then we act shocked when the refugees show up at our doorstep, y'all. That's what we've been doing. It's time to own the consequences. I'm not saying we should have open borders. I do think we should have secure borders. But what I'm saying is to sit there and to frame every single migrant coming over as a rapist or a terrorist or a murderer or whatever, a drug dealer or whatever, it's not fair. Especially for those who are running to our country because they are dying. Think about this. Venezuela right now has a dictator in office, okay? A dictator in office. He was a president. He was elected. People don't like him. We didn't like him. We wanted him gone. Okay, election came up. The Venezuelans voted overwhelmingly for the opposition. He turned around and said, actually, I won. And they said, prove it. No. And then he went to the court. Ratify it. They ratified it. Okay, I am now the elected president. They said, yo, we want to see the votes. Why can't we count the votes? Why can't we count the votes? He put out an arrest warrant for the opposition because he was saying he was trying to cause instability. That person had to flee. Venezuela. Sound familiar? As far as everything that he did. Who does that sound like, y'all? Guys, the Israel-Gaza conflict, let's get back to that, okay? We're watching the same story unfold again, all right? America's unconditional support for military responses without addressing root causes has led to the same backlash. The October 7th Hamas attack happened inside Israel's recognized borders. I get that. But the broader conflict is rooted in years of failed international diplomacy and asymmetrical power. That's just the truth. That's why this is complicated. Because yes, Hamas did attack Israel. Yes, there are some countries that do not even recognize Israel's right to exist. Okay? So here we are, complaining about the symptoms while ignoring the sickness. Refugees at the border, war in the Middle East, instability in every corner of the world where we once placed our flag. And now we ask, why is everything falling apart? But maybe the better question is, who keeps making these decisions in the first place? That's where we're going to take it up a notch, because the next part, y'all, is not just another headline. It's the root of the problem. I know I'm supposed to be whispering, but it's time we say it loud. Let's drop the MOAB. Okay, guys. The MOAB stands for Mother of All Bombs. All right. I'm not going to do this all the time, but when I drop a bomb like this, Jesus Christ. Thank you. When I drop a bomb, MOAB, that means I got a big idea, and I'm going to try to bring it home. Okay? First thing I want y'all to think about. How many of you guys know about the Sykes-Picot Agreement? All right, let me generalize it. It's two folks, right? One, if I'm not mistaken, was from France, and the other one was from England. Let me frame this for you guys a little bit, okay? After World War I, right? It was chaos. Governments were stretched thin, desperate to secure future power. Decisions were being made in smoke-filled back rooms, not parliament halls. In that environment, diplomats had unusual freedom to make moves as long as they aligned with national interests, right? So Picot was backed by the France Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Sykes was working under the British War Office and the Foreign Office, okay? Both were granted full negotiating authority, right? So meaning their word carried the power of the state in this context. And they weren't freelancers. They were agents of empire, okay? Okay, so yeah. So I need you to understand the Sykes-Picot Agreement was signed in 1916 during World War I, all right? And it was a secret deal between Britain and France and later approved by Russia before the revolution, okay? The purpose was to carve up the Ottoman Empire's Arab territories before the war even ended, basically deciding who got what the Ottomans lost, okay? They split the Arab world into spheres of influence, not sovereign nations. France would get control over modern-day Lebanon, Syria, and part of Turkey, and Britain would get control over Iraq, Jordan, and southern Palestine. All right, Palestine, the Jerusalem area, was set to be internationally governed and a neutral zone because of its religious significance. And the rest of the Arab lands left under nominal Arab rule, but under British and French control behind the scenes. So the Arabs would look independent, but Europe would actually be the ones pulling the strings, okay? It was dirty because it betrayed the Arab promises, all right? At the same time, Britain had been making promises to Arab leaders via the Hussein and McMahon correspondence that if they rebelled against the Ottomans, they'd get independent Arab states. And that's what they promised them, okay? The Sykes-Picot exposed that lie because Britain was never planning to give the Arabs their freedom. They were just useful for the war effort. It ignored the people on the ground. No Arabs, Turks, or Jews were consulted, all right? The agreement treated the Middle East like a chessboard, ignoring ethnic, tribal, religious, and historical dynamics. It set the stage for future conflict, and it planted the seeds of distrust towards the West. It created artificial borders that grouped enemies or split allies. It led to Arab nationalist anger, Jewish Zionist frustration, and violent rebellions throughout the 20th century, okay? And guess what? Russia, remember, didn't have any part of the agreement, but they approved it. They agreed. And then when they got mad after the Russian Revolution, now the new Bolshevik government published a secret agreement to embarrass the West. When the Arabs saw it, they were pissed. Sykes-Picot was European colonialism in pen and ink. A deal made in secret that cut the Middle East into pieces, lied to its people, and left wounds that still bleed today. They promised freedom, but divided the land like spoils of war. Okay? That led to what is now the issue in the Middle East. That is part of the reason why Israel is so hated. Now, that's not the only reason. That's part of it, okay? Y'all remember Operation Ajax? When the CIA overthrew Iran's elected leader for BP's oil profits? Y'all forgot about that? Y'all forgot about the Iraq War? Remember what Cheney and them said? Bush and Cheney? You know, you remember that? You don't remember when Trump moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem without asking Congress? The people, us, we didn't choose this. Hell, Congress didn't even choose it. You know, and Congress was outright lied to when we talk about the Iraq War. We didn't choose this. Power did. If we believe in democracy, we need to let it work. America fears its own people. That's why most big decisions happen behind closed doors. We vote, but our choices are filtered through PAC money, media spin, and manufactured fear. But the arc of democracy corrects itself if we let it. H word, he rose with the votes. People voted him into power. He still lost the war. Okay? Slavery was law. Now it's history. Jim Crow ruled. Then fell. Leadership. Okay? McCarthyism. If y'all know what McCarthyism is, then this should hit. If you don't, you should go read up. McCarthyism never died, all right? Yesterday's "Are you a commie?" is today's "Are you woke?" or "Are you a deep state?" Jim Jordan, MTG, Mike Johnson, weaponized fear, Adam Schiff, Hillary Clinton. They ain't innocent either. Hillary Clinton, anyway. Left or right, it's all fear. Fear of the people, fear of ideas, fear of change. The spirit of McCarthyism didn't die. It just put on a new jersey. If America wants to lead, it has to lead by example. That means ending foreign policy by executive fiat. All right. That means restoring congressional oversight. That means purging money from politics. That means investing in grassroots leadership, not think tanks and lobbyists. Stop exporting military. Start modeling consent. America keeps calling itself the leader of the free world. So maybe it's time we start acting like it. Democracy doesn't need another slogan. It needs courage. Let me be clear. What we're watching unfold around the world isn't just the result of broken politics. It's the result of power-hoarding democracy, then blaming the people when things go wrong. From the Middle East to South America to our own streets, the problem hasn't been freedom. It's been fear. Fear used to justify secret coups. Fear used to pass Patriot Acts. Fear used to shut down dissent, whether it's red baiting or cancel culture. The truth is, democracy works when we let it, when we trust the people, not just presidents, not just parties, to shape the world that we live in. If America really wants to be a broker of peace, it needs to stop exporting control and start modeling consent. Stop calling itself the leader of the free world and actually lead. I'm gonna let that breathe. I know that was heavy, and you know I'm looking at the time right now. Yeah, I gotta go. I got a life. Okay, I gotta actually edit all this stuff. I mean, it's the second time I did this. Let me say this, guys. I know that was heavy, and you know, I get it. You know, you probably need a second to breathe. So let me just talk about something that's a little bit lighter. I'm actually leaving. I'm about to be on the road. I'm going to be on the road for the next month and a half. So I'm going to give y'all my schedule and, of some of the places I'm going to be. And if you guys are down, anybody that's out there, if you guys like what I'm saying, you want to link up just to talk, talk policy, you want to shoot some content, you just want to meet up just to meet me or whatever the case is. I mean, I only got 88 followers, but, to all my 88s, you feel me? Let's get into this passport. Tripping. Yeah. So anyways, all right. I just want y'all to know, like, I'm gonna be around. I'm approachable. I would love to meet you guys. And shoot, even if it's just to take a flick or whatever, shoot some quick content, whatever, to debate, whatever. I'm down with it. I'm open as long as we keep it mutual. You guys ain't no weirdos and stuff like that. Hit me in my DMs and we can probably link up. All right. May 7th, I'll be in Vancouver. All right. May 8th, I'll be in Portland. May 11th, I'll be in Seattle. May 13th, I'll be in San Jose. May 15th, I'll be in Sacramento. May 20th, I'll be in Dallas, Texas. May 22nd, my birthday, New Orleans. Okay. May 24th, I'll be in Lake Buena Vista. I don't know where I'm going to be on the 25th, but May 28th, I'll be in Charlotte. Shout out to Reese, Shauna Reese. You already know who you are. What's up with you? And May 29th, I'll be in Raleigh, and June 1st, I'll be in Wallingford, Connecticut. Okay. And then by June 1st, I'll be dropping my next episode, and you guys will know where I'm going to be on those other days. All right. If you're in one of those cities, let's connect, man. If you're interested in coffee, convo, shooting content, debates, real community dialogue, I'm not just online, I'm outside. Let's talk in person. Okay. That's what it is. So last thing. All right. I hope you guys rock with me. Because this was a heavy thing to deliver. And there's a lot of tidbits. And I hope that you guys appreciate what I'm doing. Hey, and let me also say this. I could be wrong. If you think I'm wrong, get at me in the comments. You'll learn very quickly. I don't care. I don't care if you disagree with me. Not that I don't care and I won't listen, but I don't care if you don't agree with me. I will engage with you. As long as you're being respectful and we're having actual policy debate, I have no problem talking. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Guess what? All these interactions in the comments, it really does something to my thinking, right? I read these things, and whether I agree with it or disagree with it, at least I learn your point. At least I get some understanding. You guys got to stop running away from understanding, folks. We got to be able to talk respectfully. We need to be able to debate. If you get at me in my comments and you keep it respectful, I'll respond to you respectfully. And whether we agree or not, I always like your comment. And I'm always going to sit here and digest this information into the content that I'm going to make here on the podcast. So please don't run away from comments. I love them. To all my 88 folks that I got here on TikTok, and to all the 10 subscribers I got on YouTube. Get that in a month. I know some people grow faster than that. Me, hey, I'm whatever. I still rock with it. I rock with y'all. Thank y'all for working with me, all right? So look. I'm going to leave y'all with something that's been weighing on me, all right? We talk a lot about rights, a lot about justice, but when do we stop believing in resolution? When do we start confusing retaliation for righteousness? Everybody wants to clap back. Nobody wants to sit down. Y'all remember when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high? And instead of following that, we turned it into a punchline. And we said, when they go low, we go to the basement. That got laughs, man. Shout out to Shannon Sharp. And we'll talk about that, but not right now. But we lost something. When we did that, guys, we lost something. When we started saying they go low, we go lower, that we lost something with that, guys. It was just... And I get it. You get tired of being a bigger person. You want to match energy, right? With the same energy. But let me ask you this. Where has that gotten us? Some of us are so committed to being right, we forget how to be human. You quote the Bible, but you forget it said, turn the other cheek. You believe in forgiveness until you're the only one that needs to be forgiving, right? Matthew 5:38 through 39. You have heard that it was said, eye for eye and tooth for tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Okay, Matthew 8:21 through 22. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times, Jesus answered. I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Okay, Islam in the Quran, Surah Ashura. All right, 42:40. The retribution for an evil act is an evil one like it. But whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah. Indeed, he does not like wrongdoers. Surah Az-Zumar 39:53. Say, O my servants who have transgressed against them by sinning, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Indeed, it is He who is the forgiving, the merciful. In Judaism, the Torah, Leviticus 19:18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Genesis 50:17. This is what you say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sin and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father. Buddhism, teachings of the Buddha, all right? Dhammapada 5. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Buddha's teaching on anger. Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned, okay? Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, all different books, same lesson. Forgiveness frees you. Retaliation just keeps you shackled to the same fire you say you're trying to escape. We keep blaming each other, left, right, black, white, gay, straight, immigrant, native, and yet nobody wants to lead by example. So let me lead by saying this. You can't lead the free world if you're still a prisoner to your pride. If we want peace in Gaza, in our neighborhoods, in these damn TikTok comments, somebody got to say enough is enough. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is nothing, but sometimes nothing is exactly what ends the fire. Me, I'm trying to be like water, y'all. I'm trying to be calm, necessary, life-giving, but powerful enough to flood a system if I have to. It's wild. I've been shadow banned so much, I might have to start whispering my hot takes in Morse code. Like, you know what I mean? But maybe that's the point. This whole episode was a whisper, y'all. A whisper that got louder until it became a mic drop.
What'd you say?
Yo. And just so y'all don't forget, you know, as I'm closing out this, just so y'all don't forget, hey, the new Frequency comic is out there. Check it out. Let me know what y'all think, man. Please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on TikTok, follow me. You feel me? Turn on your notifications about me. Get in my comments or get in my DMs. Either or, I would love to hear what you guys think. I trust it really helps to hear what you guys think. Trust me when I say that. So I invite all you guys to hit me up. And, you know, of course, subscribe, comment, share. Please share. Repost, whatever. Please, y'all. I need y'all support. Please, please, please keep supporting this thing. And keep letting me know when I'm wrong. All right, with that being said, this has been another episode of the Minority Report, and the mic should have been dropped, but, you know, guess what? Here we are. I'm not dropping this expensive mic, so we just gonna ride off, man. See y'all next month.
I can't stand up. I can't say goodbye. If I try to go, I won't leave alone. It's worse.